Hi there, I'm Andrea Koppel, and it's time for coffee, the podcast where you get to hear firsthand what the jobs and careers that interest you the most are really like. Hey there, Java junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career triple shot K-Cup with my guest, Michael Solomon. So, let me ask you this, Michael. If you could share a time in your professional life, you talked about your personal life, the tragedy of losing your girlfriend, but in your professional life, when you really struggled, maybe you even failed. I don't know how close you came to going out of business, or if that was even a threat before you started 10X Management and 10X Ascend, whatever that experience was. If you could share it, and most importantly, how you persevered, and if there was a lesson you learned in the process.
Yeah, such a good question. And so much of who we are comes out in how we deal with these challenging situations. And you just said it so eloquently. For me, I would say in the early 2000s, late 90s, when the music industry started to collapse, because of technology, our contract with John Mayer ended. So that was a huge problem because, we worked at any given time with between, 5 and 10 acts. And even though the other acts were doing fine, he had grown to be probably 80 or 90% of our business. So when that relationship ended, that was a huge problem. And then you had the industry collapsing around the same time. And our friends at record companies and publishing companies are getting laid off. And the writing is on the wall that the music industry, we talk about looking at COVID, like we know life is not going to be the same for a while. That was what it felt like in the music industry. And it was the first industry to sort of go over the internet cliff that everybody else followed. And it was terrifying. I pride myself on being a really creative, innovative person. And I would walk in every day and I'd be like, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do this? What if we do that? And it was an endless cycle for probably a year or two of feeling like the sky is falling. By the way, the leaders in the industry didn't even seem to notice that the sky was falling and wouldn't listen to anyone to make changes that would prevent it from happening. And what we ended up with was a pretty scary place to be. We both had young kids and income was way down and the horizon was terrible. And lo and behold, we stumbled onto this idea. You've all heard that story at this point. And thank goodness we did. But I also know, I believe in my heart that if it hadn't been that, it would have been something else. And that whole necessity is the mother of invention. It's true, provided you're a little bit of MacGyver or Boy Scout or Girl Scout, if you know what I mean by that. You've got to be creative and you're going to hit roadblocks. And you, just like we talked about before, everybody makes mistakes. It's how you deal with them. It's how you overcome those obstacles. And when you see an obstacle in front of you, you got to know whether you either need to go around it, under it, over it, through it, but you can't just stop. Life is going to keep coming at you. And the people who really figure this out are the ones that we all want to follow into battle. Those are the leaders. That was the proverbial battle, by the way, in case that was unclear.
I hope so. So what was the lesson that you took away from that prolonged period? I don't know how long the evolution was and when you were coming in every day, what about this? What about that? To the, okay, let's try tech. Okay, let's test it. Let's try it out, to the, when you started picking up steam. What did you take away from that experience?
I think it's grit and perseverance. I think they really just are the things that matter most of all. Our first years in the music management game, we started the company. We didn't have any success, any real success for our first probably 3 or 4 years. And once it started to happen and young managers would ask us, what do you need to do? We would say it's a game of attrition. You need to survive long enough till good things can happen. And you always need to be iterating and growing and making more opportunity for yourself. but like, don't think it's going to happen overnight just because you want it to. And when we hit this rough patch, that's essentially what we did, was just, let's keep coming up with ideas. Let's keep trying things. Let's keep throwing things against the wall, and something will stick if we keep trying. And that's true. There's a gazillion quotes about problems. I think there's an Einstein quote that talks about having tried something 99 times and not figured it out. He's like, I haven't failed. I just know 99 ways that don't work.
Yep.
And that mentality is what separates good from great. And what separates those who are going to be really successful from those who are going to work for those who are really successful.
Love that. And it reminds me very much of an interview I did with an incredible guy. His name is Dov Baron. And he was the first person to introduce me to this quote that's been attributed to Joseph Campbell. And I know that there's a little bit of controversy around whether or not Campbell said this, but I love the quote. I don't care who said it. And it's, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And what that is supposed to mean is that when you're afraid and when you're really outside of your comfort zone, that's exactly where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is where you will level up the most. And that is why I said, when I was fired twice in my 40s, the first time I was 43, CNN didn't renew my contract after I'd been there for 14 years. It totally sucked, but it gave me the opportunity to reinvent myself. And then when I was fired from that first job that I had, when I was trying to reinvent myself, it was like, oh my God, I have to do this all over again. But it pushed me further. And yes, it's scary going into industries that you're not familiar with and having to drink from the proverbial fire hose and spending your weekends and your nights like reading and learning and trying to absorb huge amounts of information. But I wouldn't be where I am right now, doing what I'm doing right now, which I love, if that hadn't happened.
I could not agree more. The other quote that your quote made me think of is I guess it's a Michael Jordan quote. You miss 1,000% of the shots you don't take. By not going into the cave, whatever's in there, you're not going to get it. And I love that idea. And I love the knowledge that every time you push yourself and you go through an experience, you come out the other side better, stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the world. And the question, I did this with an employee recently who was trying to overcome some limiting beliefs. I said, tell me about the things in your life that you're really proud of. You can pick anything you want. It doesn't matter. And I knew when I asked the question that every single one of them were going to involve this person having done something really difficult. And sure enough, the answer she or he gave were something difficult. And we all look back. Everybody can do this exercise. If you look back at your life, you think about the things that you value, the experiences that you value the most, that are most highly treasured, other than some sort of familial warmth, friendship or romantic warmth. I think surely you're going to pull things that were, I put on that event in 30 days, even though everybody said it couldn't be done. It's going to be the things that people thought were impossible or that you thought were impossible, and you made them happen anyway.
100%, which is why I truly believe for our young listeners that if they put their heads down, put out positive energy and a can-do attitude, how they persevered through the coronavirus to land a job that they really enjoy, may even love, is going to be the story that they're telling their kids one day. Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to Time for Coffee, where the professionals in the jobs that most interest you always have time to grab coffee 24/7, no matter where you live. I have one quick favor to ask you. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Time for Coffee. Thanks so much.